What is up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle for the next episode of The Long Dark, where we are moving on out today. I don't think we're going to stay in this location any longer. I think we're going to be on our way out and head to the next map. I think we're going to have to make some decisions before we go, and I was a little bit actually conflicted about whether or not I wanted to show this portion, or if I just wanted to come back in with me traveling, because this is going to be quite a long trip. I think by the time we get to the next map, the Coastal Highway, I think that we're basically going to be out of time. So everything is staying here for the most part. We're leaving just about everything here as a backup plan. And so I know some people are not going to like that, but basically all of our crafting materials and all that kind of stuff stay in here. There's not a whole lot that I can do with it. I think that if I carry it with me, we're going to max out our weight very quickly, and we're already basically maxed out just off like random stuff that we're carrying. I think that it's a decently smart idea to only bring one knife, and so we can drop a second knife here. I think we should definitely bring a gun, and so I think that's going to have to come with us. I've got a lot of food with me, but that's for a self-preservation reason. I don't really think that there's too much more that I can get rid of on this side, but I think we should spend a day essentially just like cooking things and also repairing our clothes and getting ready for the road ahead. Because this is going to be a trip. It's not going to be super easy. It's not going to be super hard. But at the same time, I just want to make sure the things that I leave over here, I can come back for them later and they will be useful. Which one of these bedrolls was actually useful here? Back up out of there. That one's at 64%. I think it'd be worth it to bring that one. Let me get some cloth in here. I'm going to fix my gloves before we go as well. Go ahead and jump up in here. We'll repair that. In general, I don't like to head for the next map without at least 7 or 8 hours of daylight left. If we end up underneath that threshold, it might be a tad awkward. But that's all done for right there. So what do we want to bring with us in this case? Well, how is our status looking? Because if I can drink more water, and if I can eat more food, it clears up our bar. Now, our character does not have an impressive carrying strength. She can only carry about 65 pounds on her back, which is average, I suppose. Most people, if you're backpacking, you pack for between 60 and 80 pounds, but that's because you're going to be trudging around for like weeks at a time. In the case of this game, I don't think it's unreasonable. I've hiked reasonable distances with about 100 pounds on my back, and so if I was transferring, in between two locations, and I knew that I had a place to rest and resupply and crash out for the night and resume my task the next day, I think that I'd be fine. I think I could do a couple trips before, I'd be burnt out. However, that being said, our character's carrying capacity is not amazing. So, well, kind of what is this right here? 76%. I should probably bring a pry bar. I should probably bring a toolkit just in case. I would say I would love to bring all the medical supplies with me, but we're already barking up the wrong tree right now. I'm sorry. We're already full up. I think cups of coffee are probably wise, and so I'll bring a couple of those. But aside from that, I think we're ready to hit the road. We've got enough food to keep us pretty much taken care of for a couple of days. I don't think we're going to run out of food anytime soon. We have just barely enough water, so actually what I might consider here is if we could bring a little bit more water, I don't think I would be that upset about it. Now, is that purified or is that nasty-ass water? That's nasty-ass water, so let's go ahead and drop all of that. Is none of it purified? Shit. Okay, well, I'll bring the dirty water with me, and we'll use water purification tabs. I've got enough with me right now, and you'll excuse me. I need to grab a torch, too, before we leave. We got stuff to take a look at here. I would say that bringing a storm lantern would probably be a good idea, but I bet you I can get another one, and so I'm not going to worry about it that much. Let's go ahead and light this thing on up with one of our last matches. Why the hell not? I'll bring one with me. We'll drink through our supply pretty quickly. Now, this means that we don't have a lot of crafting supplies with us. However, I'm fairly confident that when we get to the next zone, we should be able to find more than enough bullets and more than enough supplies in order to get us through to the next little chunk of our adventure. For right now, though, it's time to leave the Carter Dam behind. I think we've just about done everything here. People had said that there's a secret path in that cave that we had gone through previously. I fiddled around with it, but I don't think I could find it. It gets a little bit twisty and turny in there, and I think I just end up getting all kinds of discombobulated every time I go in, and so unfortunately I think I'm just not good enough. I'm just not skilled enough. Hopefully the weather is not too terrible. If the weather is super nasty, this could go either way. Oh, good. The weather's looking semi alright. Yeah, we'll be good. We've got the torch too. I'm just going to leave the torch out because I don't want to relight it, and it gives us a little bit of extra time to fiddle around without our heat criteria being all used up. It's important to remember that at this point, we know for 100% a fact all of our stuff is gone from the lodge, so there's really no point in us coming back to the lodge or really going back to that corner of the map ever again, unless we're just bored and we've decided that we want to look around for like bunkers or anything like that. In general, I don't look for bunkers anymore because I never find one. I don't think I've ever found a bunker in the entire game, and I've looked up where all the spots are, and I've done specific playthroughs just to look for bunkers, and I've never had that sort of luck. So unfortunately, I tend to just write them off as kind of like this mythical thing that I never find or see. And so I don't tend to fiddle around with them that much or put much faith in them. I'm going to put a faith in a bunker, I don't know. Just one singular faith. We've got one faith, and it goes inside the bunker. Because you know what George Michael said. You gotta have faith. I like that song. I'm not even going to hate. George Michael was rocking it with that earring, too. Got the leather jacket and the stubble. The 80s ladies. The 80s ladies love that stuff. I was there. I remember. It was wild. Let's continue our walk through the forest here. I would say that it'd also be probably well advised to consider picking up sticks while we travel. The reason for that is that if we end up getting stranded, having a backpack full of 40 or 50 sticks might save our life. Now, our temperatures are really, really good. Like, I don't think we're going to have to worry about getting stopped off. I'm going to check the train tracks first because we have 7 hours of daylight and I think we have time. The only thing that we're trying to do right now is when we get to the opposite side of the coastal highway, there's a hut, or there's kind of like a little work trailer that's like right there when you get out that way. I think we'll be alright. I brought enough coffee with me to where I think I can forestall our exhaustedness. Our weight is a little bit high though, so just be aware that our stamina is going to drain at a very, very high rate. Eat some food real fast to get rid of a little bit of weight. I am carrying a lot of stuff with me. I suppose I could do without the snares. Like, I was trying to decide on stuff I wanted to drop, but realistically, it's just kind of... Oh, look at that. I can purify water out here. Water purification tablets, I don't know exactly how they work. I assume that it's just witchcraft. I wasn't paying attention in chemistry class. No, I love chemistry. Chemistry was actually one of my favorite classes I ever took. I don't understand really why people dread it so much at college. I think it's just because they had bad teachers. It's the same reason that I dread taking programming classes and stuff like that, is because I had horrible teachers that just like, they knew how to program and they were like legendary programmers, but they were just bad at teaching. And I think that's really the last retreat of the person that can't make it an industry, or B, the person that just like is done with their career. I think they fall back to academia. And I'm not necessarily talking about high school or middle school, because those are completely different beasts. I'm talking about like the collegiate system. I think most college teachers get there just because they can't really decide where they want to go with their career, or they need a fallback point because they don't want to do like the corporate chain bullshit that you have to do when you're in industry. So anyways, either that or they want to give back by teaching the next generation. Although, more than likely than not, most of the teachers I met, it kind of seemed like it was the former rather than the latter, because most of them, they didn't really seem to have much interest in teaching at all. It was mostly they kind of did it so that they get the research grants. But aside from that, fleece sweater, yeah, probably useful, but also probably heavy. Probably don't need it. Some scrap metal over here that's always there. Alright, so we're going to go back around the other way. I'm hoping this torch will continue. I don't know what its durability is looking like, but if we can keep it running. I love the torches, by the way. You should always use torches in this game. Really, really good object. In fact, I think they've been buffed since the last time that I played, where they give off a lot of heat. And so even if you got bad clothing, you can walk around. I heard a guy say that he walked around naked for a while in this game. Like, he survived so long that all of his clothes broke down and, like, everything he owned broke down. He ran out of bullets, so he couldn't hunt anything. And so, in a nutshell, he just walked around naked with a torch the whole time whenever he would go outside in the winter. Kind of hilarious. Some naked random mountain man is like, "Where's my family?" Walking around the middle of the hills. Oh, God. Getting his Liam Neeson on. I always say that, but you know what? I don't hate. I go see every single Liam Neeson movie every time. I'll walk up on the tombstones, though. That got dark. That got dark really quick. I went to see that movie, and it's not, I wasn't expecting Happy-Go-Lucky, but I definitely wasn't expecting what I got. And I was like, man, this movie got dark and stayed dark like the entire time. Like, this was not a movie. By the end of the movie, my girlfriend, she looked a little green at the gills. She looked like she definitely was not having a good time. And I was like, I think I may have picked a poor date movie. This one may not have worked out quite so well. I have a pretty strong stomach when it comes to gnarly content and things like that. I follow a very strict never look away policy when it comes to gnarly shit in life, because I feel like it's important for you to view things that, you know, disagree with you. I think nowadays people like to live these homogenized, perfectly pasteurized, purified existences where they pretend like horrible things don't happen as long as they don't have to look at them, you know? And so, for example, when I read articles on Syria, I go and I look at the not safe for work pictures and kind of, the nasty things that are happening and stuff like that, because I think it's important. And part of being an educated, informed individual is looking at things that necessarily are not pleasant to look at. Not for any sort of sick thrill or anything like that, but just to like really let it sink in how horrible things are for some people, so you can really wrap your head around it, because sometimes somebody telling you doesn't necessarily do the situation justice. It's something that you have to witness with your own eyes. And so anyways, it's a lot harder to be in favor of, war, violence, and things like that when you've seen, the pictures of like what it does to families and what it does to households and what carpet bombing and, all those sorts of things do. I'm not saying it makes you, directly against those sorts of things. I think it's always necessary. I think at some point there's always a time where people got to stand up and, you got to duke up, because the problem's not going to go away unless you do something about it. However, I think that if you see things like that, it definitely helps, the humanity of the situation sink in, so that you can think with a clearer mind, especially when putting yourself in the position of other people. I think there's something off to the left we might be able to take a look at. That got really depressing all of a sudden. I hope I enunciated myself properly. I don't want to come off as some asshole. I'm always worried about that on the internet, too. Because I only get 25 minutes to explain my position on anything to you guys, and I'm not necessarily the most eloquent all the time. Sometimes I stumble over, there it is right there. So what's the temperature looking like now that our torch is out? It's looking okay. Let me ditch that torch stump over here. And I'll also ditch the shoes, because we definitely don't need those. It's just way too much weight to carry around. So those are now gone. How's our hunger looking? Our water, actually. We could use some water right now. So let's go ahead and we'll pop off with some water. That'll lower that weight down a little bit. We're only a tiny bit over our threshold for right now. I do think that it would probably be wise to get a cup of coffee in us real fast. It's not going to help out a ton, but it'll take the edge off. And so anyways, that'll bump us up to the next level. Sticks over here. Got rabbits on this side. I've never fully explored this map. Every time I come through here, I'm trying to get to that end of the map as fast as possible, and so I never take a look around. It looks like there's a cave in and over here. It looks like either scrap metal or some kind of campfire. We got a granola bar and some tomato soup. Some fir firewood. This actually looks like a pretty reasonable place to stop off if you get stuck here. And so now my knowledge of the game is expanded. That's one of the fun things I like about this game, is every now and again you get the opportunity to take a look around and actually take in your surroundings, because you're not panicking and running for your life. And you come up with new contingency plans. New things that you can do in case things go wrong. Places you can fall back to just in case. I'm going to leave the firewood. It's too heavy and I don't think we can carry it for right now. I'll leave it alone. I would love to see, so I think one of the big things this game could do to up its game plan, I do think that they could probably add some kind of RPG mechanic to the whole thing where you level up your strength. I mean, the human body does get stronger over time. You'd be amazed how wiry and gnarly the human body can get after... I've lost 13 pounds on one, 2-3 week trip, being out in the field just hiking every single day, doing maps and all that kind of stuff with 65, 70 pounds on your back. And, you're back at camp eating cans of beans and shit like that. You will drop weight and you will come back home looking pretty ripped very, very rapidly. I would highly recommend that if you don't believe me, you should look at the trail transformation on people that do the Appalachian Trail, which actually is on the higher end on the exertion meter. It takes people a long time to hike the Appalachian Trail. It takes quite a while. But when they come back, there are guys that go out there that are pretty heavy when they first go out that way. And then when they get back at the end of the 2 months or whatever it is, they're real thin. They almost look skeletal, you know what I mean? They lose so much weight doing those things. So anyways, I've always wanted to do the Appalachian Trail. It comes down to one of those things where you've got to be fortunate enough to have a situation, though, where you can just vanish off the grid for 2 or 3 months and walk the damn thing, which, how many people in adult life that don't have their parents paying for everything for them? That tends to be, I tend to see the people that do the Appalachian Trail tend to either be, wealthy dudes that, run businesses who can just, leave it run via proxy and things like that. Or B, it tends to be guys who are 18, just got out of high school, 19, so they still live with their parents, they don't have any bills or anything like that, and so they can just buy a backpack and go. And actually, I would recommend that. Before you move out of your parents' house, I think a lot of people are super speedy to move out of their parents' house. Some parents are super speedy about pushing you out of their house, too. I know that's how my parents were. Just kind of just being so, you're 18 now. When are you, getting on out? I'm not going to say they wanted me out, but my mom definitely wanted that to become her community/study/library room. It's what she's converted my old bedroom into now. It's like, kind of like a library slash study. It's a cool little room. I like it a lot, actually. But it's still got like guest amenities in it. It's still got like a bed in the corner, like a little twin that people can sleep on when they stay over. So you kind of just like sleep in the library or whatever. It's kind of cool. Not really a library. It's just like a book nook. But anyways, I question the validity of having a book nook in your house nowadays that we have like, you know, Kindles and things like that. It kind of seems pointless to me. But I get it. I'm old school like that. I can't stand reading on Kindles or on tablets or anything of that nature. I have to read a book. I just got to have it in my hands with like the pages and like the smell. I love the smell of the ink and the old paper, especially if you got like a book from like the 70s or like the 60s or like the 80s, like a really, really old print of like certain books. Like I think I've got a couple of Ray Bradburys and I got a couple of, I think I have a couple of Orwells as well that are really, really old at this point. Like the pages are starting to yellow out really hardcore. And so anyways, I like the way they smell. I don't know what it is. Something about the way old books smell. It's just like pleasing. That and video game manuals. Like not today's video game manuals, they suck. Back when I was a kid. When you got a video game manual, it was like a book that came with the game. It was amazing. Like the Baldur's Gate manual, oh my god, it was the coolest thing ever. I read it like 100 times when I was a kid. Because it was basically a book unto itself that taught you how to play D&D. It was actually a crash course on D&D for anybody that had never played it before. And in fact, you could learn how to play D&D better from the Baldur's Gate handbook than you could from the player's guide. You could read it quicker. If I was trying to teach somebody how to play AD&D, I'd probably just give them the Baldur's Gate manual and be like, go. By the time you finish this 60 pages, you will probably be good. You'll be good and ready to play the game very, very rapidly. Probably the best crash course I've ever seen made on D&D. I mean, it taught like 14-year-old me how to play the game when I'd never even played a tabletop game before. Anyways, we're almost there. I figured this episode was mostly just going to be me walking in between point A and point B. It might be wise to get a firearm out. We're packing 17 rounds still. That's a whole lot of hunting that we can get done. That's a whole lot of trapping we can still get done. There it is, the coastal highway. We've made it to our new home. Let's go ahead and dive in, everybody, and see what we can accomplish here. All in all, we had pretty good weather. I think we did all right. I don't think we'd be fortunate enough to travel through the night. I think that as far as night travel is concerned, I think it might get a little too cold tonight for us to keep moving. So we'll probably want to be indoors by the time this is all over. We got a dead body over here. Anytime you see birds like that, dark colored birds swarming over anything, you can typically figure it's probably going to be a dead body. Here in California, we have these ugly ass buzzards that smell dead stuff from way off. The other day when I went for my run, there's about easily 30 or 40 of them up in a tree, just all lined up everywhere. And so I figured there must have been a corpse around there somewhere. Yes, indeed. There's our dead fella right there. Dead stuff definitely gives off a pungent aroma. You've never had the pleasure of smelling decay. It's definitely instinctual too, because it's not necessarily like a terrible smell, but just naturally it seems to turn your stomach. It's very, very odd. I've heard some people say that they don't really mind the smell of skunks or anything else that really smells, but it's been rare that I've heard anybody say that they like the smell of decay. Like, really? I don't know about that one. It's kind of gross. Anyways, yeah, we get these big buzzards here that stand about, well, they'll stand chest level with me. They're pretty big birds. They're real large. California buzzards. California condors. I forget what they're called. Either way, they're huge. When you see them on the ground, I can't tell you what the wingspan is, but it's easily probably 5.5 feet. It's a real, real big bird. When you see one standing up next to you, it's like, damn, that's a large animal. Makes a turkey look tiny by comparison. Very, very large animal. And actually, a lot of people don't like buzzards, but I find buzzards to be fairly fascinating, simply based on the fact that they're apex survivors. Buzzards are essentially one of the best creatures that nature has ever created. They can eat just about anything, nearly impossible to poison and kill. I mean, the thing is, nothing really hunts them, because if you eat them, you get sick and you die, because their guts are just these giant poison traps of disgusting filth and rotting meat and everything else. I mean, they're not a pretty animal, but they're definitely an animal they're sort of like boars in the same way, where it's an animal that's been naturally adapted to survive everything. And it's no wonder that you have problems with overpopulation on boars and things of that nature, because it's a powerful animal, you know? It's an animal you can shoot it dead in the face with a .45 caliber round and it'll bounce right off. You know, it's a tough animal. It's a very, very tough animal. Maybe you don't know. I say things like you know, but if you don't have boars where you live, I guess you wouldn't. Boars are nasty. If you ever come across a boar, run. Get the hell out of there as fast as you can. Get up in a tree, but I can't guarantee the boar won't knock the tree down. It's a very, very grumpy animal with a very bad temper if it's breeding season or if it's piglet season. They got a real mean streak. That's an animal that'll put a hole in you real quick. A boar is a great way to get killed. A bear may leave you alone if you make enough noise. A boar, you just antagonize it. It'll just get madder. Alright, so there's nothing here on the shelf. The debate that we want to take right now is, do we want to hike further into the zone knowing we only have 4 hours of daylight left? In real life, I would say emphatically F that. But since we're playing a video game, I don't really see the trouble with it. Let's go ahead and refuel real fast, though. Got enough coffee on us to where I don't feel like I have to worry about what's going to happen in the near future. Drink a little bit of water and we'll get in here. Our energy levels are looking pretty stacked. We already looted that place, and if its bounties were a little bit more incredible, I think I would stick with it. I'm not going to bring the crowbar with me. I'll kind of just mentally note that it's still up here, but yeah, I love boars. I always wanted to get a tattoo of a boar somewhere. It's a tough animal. It's fierce about family, too. Boars are tough to kill. Hunting boars, used to do it with a long, long spear. And you would just hope that it didn't break the spear and run through you. Typically, you'd use dogs, too, so that if anything got gored, it would be the dogs. And by the time the dogs had been tusked a few times, you'd have stabbed the boar to death with the spears. I mean, you hunt bears the exact same way. Ancient peoples were kind of single-track minded like that. Once they found a tactic that worked, they ran it down permanently. And granted, I don't blame them. Researching new opportunities to kill stuff is dangerous. Every time you try to figure out a new way to kill something, you put yourself at a real risk of getting killed yourself. I don't think most people have like a strong appreciation for technology and progress in ancient peoples and like how long it took them just to come up with like simple advances, simply based on the fact that they didn't have the leisure time that we have nowadays in the first world to do like research and stuff like that. Like most people have at least some form of leisure time. At least I'd like to think that. And then again, maybe I'm a little bit detached nowadays, now that I'm doing the whole YouTube thing. I don't get a lot of free time, but I get at least an hour or two every night. Occasionally catch a weekend off. I try to force myself, but I still work through weekends most of the time. Like, I can't think of the last time I actually, like, did nothing for a couple days straight. Like, there's always, like, editing or rendering or something like that to get done. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just disconnected. I lack self-awareness. It's a real problem, too, that I notice in life. Lacking self-awareness is equally as awful as, you know, any other form of intellectual malady. I think self-awareness is important for people. And I think it's something that we all naturally lack. Human beings, we have these weird mental barriers we put up to block off, you know, self-critical thought as much as possible, while at the same time freely like kind of throwing the judgmental pendulum at other people and not holding yourself to the same standard while pretending that you hold yourself to the same standard. It's a weird thing to talk about, but it's just something I notice about people. I try to have self-awareness. I really sincerely do, or at least, you know, some kind of form of knowing myself. Because if you don't know yourself, what the hell do you know? And if you're like 17, don't answer that question yet. Believe me, it took me till I was like 30 to figure it out. And some days I'm still not sure I figured it out. Once you get into weird existential shit like that, it all gets a little murky and hazy. We're out of time for the day today. My name is Splattercat. I'll see you all later. Thank you for traveling with me to the Coastal Highway. I think the next couple rounds are going to be a little bit more fun because we're back to scavenging and we're back in setting up base camp mode. I mean, that's the real thing here, is that for the last couple episodes we've been bedded down doing jack shit nothing, and now it's back to the grind. That thing's got kerosene in it, so we'll bring that along when we leave. I'll see y'all later. How do, everybody?